And good afternoon, Sword Family. Unfortunately, Kick decided to be stupid again and lose access right before I went live, so I'm trying to get that reconnected. But in the meantime, welcome to another edition of the Teahouse and the Chinese Folk Hero Month of October. Kind of decided that most of this month, with the exception of the very last Saturday of October, we will be talking exclusively about Chinese folk heroes and a little bit about their lives and some about their different portrayals in media, movies and television series and things like that. So, last week, we discussed Ip Man. And I chose Ip Man because he was born on October 1st, and my birthday is October 3rd, and because I kind of consider him to be a teacher of my teacher, because I consider myself to be a student of Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. And since Bruce was a student of Ip Man, and I am a student of Bruce, that makes Ip Man kind of my grand shifu. This week, we're going to discuss Yuánjiǎ. Now, I chose Yuánjiǎ because Yuánjiǎ is the reason why this channel, this series, is called the Teahouse. I know I probably mentioned this 100,000 times, but the Jet Li movie Fearless is about Yuánjiǎ. And there is a scene later on in the movie where Yuánjiǎ and his last opponent are sitting and having tea. And the Japanese opponent is talking about the different grades of tea and how some grades are better than others and all that nonsense. And Yuánjiǎ basically says, I don't care. He says, it doesn't make any difference to me because the tea doesn't grade itself. We grade the tea. And the Japanese opponent comes to realize that they're not talking about tea. They're talking about martial arts. And that's kind of where I'm trying to get to with this channel. We can discuss our differences. We can discuss our different methods and our different ways of thinking about martial arts without having to resort to, well, my style is better than your style. I'm going to prove it by fighting you. No, we don't need to do that shit. It's not necessary. So today's subject is going to be Yuánjiǎ. Next week, most likely, we're going to go back to like 2 weeks ago, and we're going to discuss Guanyu, because Guanyu, other than being a massive figure in Chinese history, is also kind of considered the patron saint of Chinese martial arts. Most of the time, this is not going to be a 100% thing, but most of the time, if you walk into a Chinese martial arts school, there will either be a painting, a figurine, or an effigy or something of Guanyu in these schools, because he is like the god of martial arts. So that's going to be next week. But like I said, that's going to be next week. And I have almost 70 comments. So let's get on with that. Excuse me. I will probably be doing more of that because it is officially fall and it's kind of been raining for the last 3 days. So it's kind of kicked up a lot of pollen. And if our internet cuts out, it is because of the storm that is hovering right over the horizon over here. So if we lose, that's probably why. First through the door at 5 p.m. is one of my patrons, Dan Holyfield. Good evening. Good evening, Dan. Next up is Foxy. Evening, Dan, and welcome to the Teahouse. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more educational goodness. You're going to get me in trouble with that, because some of this is not going to be educational. Some of this is going to be just flat out ranting about stupid things that bug me, but sometimes I suppose that can be educational as well. Dan says Lindsay got all the storage boxes inside the house unloaded today. Now we can start on the boxes in the barn, slowly putting our home back together. Yeah, I saw her post on Facebook yesterday or maybe the day before about possibly downsizing because she's finding stuff in boxes that she hasn't thought about or needed in like decades. Yeah. When we first moved into this apartment, despite all this crap, most of this is just canvas bags that we picked up at the farmer's market, because somebody, every damn time we go to a farmer's market, has to get another green bag, despite the fact that we have like a dozen of them already. But when we first moved into this apartment, we literally moved in one small truckload that got my dresser and my bed frame, and everything else in this apartment at that time. We moved in a 4-door 1995 or 6 Pontiac Sunbird. So this place was pretty sparse when we first moved in here, like 12 years ago, and now we have all this crap. So yeah. Great, glad to hear it. Yes. Planning to take all the leftover plywood and stuff from the front porch to the barn tomorrow and bring some boxes back to the house, but only if it's not raining. Yeah, I got stuff. Sounds like a lot of work. Make sure you pace yourself. Yes. Rest breaks after each step. Good. Good plan. I often forget to do so or don't have time and have regrets later. Yes, you do. And another patron joins us, Carl Witzman. Good evening, Dan and Foxy. Hello, Carl. My problem is I haven't ever adjusted to not being 20-something anymore. Uh-huh. I've been there. And greetings for Carl. Reminded of that every day. I'm reminded of that quite frequently, especially since my hip, but, whatever. More greetings for Carl. Also not 50-something. I'm approaching 50. Foxy struggles with that too. Nor I anymore, yeah. Big on, Typo Demon. No, Typo Demon. Okay. All right, brain. Just give me a second. I got it. Okay, I'm okay now. My mouth said Typo Demon. My brain said Typo Negative. And then my brain radio started playing a Typo Negative song. And I had to shut that down because that would have just completely derailed everything. But I think I'm okay now. One of the things I often had to do as a vocational counselor was help people overcome grief of losing function due to injury or disability. I can understand that. Yes. Wish it were that easy. Would be so much easier if StreamYard would add in edit functions for yeah, actually it would. That would be, because you can do it in Google Chats. You can do it in Facebook messages, but you can't do it. I don't know if it's StreamYard that doesn't allow it or YouTube that doesn't allow it, but either way, come on, guys. Figure that out, because that would be incredibly helpful. There is a lot of grief to it for sure. Yes, there is. Would be lovely. Yeah, it would. Bet you were good at it. I bet he was. Still have time where I'm like, want to do the thing, but body is like, no can do. Tried, sometimes succeeded. Have to overcome well-meaning family members who don't understand disability. Or people who are just like, oh, just push through it. Don't take the pain medication. Don't take the thing that's going to lessen your pain. Just push through it, because that's a sign of being a real man. You know what I have to say to that? We're about 15 minutes in, so I should be able to do this and not get any kind of ding on my account. And here you go. Amen to that, yeah. If I have to hear, have you tried yoga one more? Well, it would be helpful, but it's not going to fix anything. It might just keep things from getting worse. Same thing with Tai Chi. It's not going to fix the things that are already broken, but it might, it might keep things from getting worse. And sometimes that's all you can do, is keep things from getting worse. So-and-so has this and can do the thing. Well, good for them. I don't care. And there is Kitty joining us. Hey, all. Hello, kitten. Right, Foxy, and hi, Kitty. Whoop-de-doo for them, but anyways, yeah. Different people have different abilities to deal with things. Thank you. Not everyone can do everything that everyone else can do. There will be some things that some people can do, and other people cannot do that thing. Shouldn't be a difficult concept, but for some people, kind of is. But that will get me started on a rant that will once again derail the entire show. So let's not do that, because that would derail things. So yeah. Greetings for Kitty. Greetings for Kitty. Donna's napping maybe in later. That's cool. No worries. If I wasn't doing this, I might be napping, because when it's cloudy and overcast like this, it's very difficult for me to stay awake. even if I had a full night's sleep last night, which I did. Foxy is complex medically, yeah. Can be quite a burden sometimes, but I at least attempt to meet with humor and grace, and most of the time succeed. Good for you, yes. She will be missed, but probably needs the nap. Probably. Fine, rest is important. Yes, rest is very important. Here we go, and Ruby made it just in time, right on the dot at 5:30. Good job. Time to learn something new? I hope so. Even if you are aware in part of the subject, I kind of hope that I can teach you something that you didn't already know, possibly, you know? Hey, Ruby, glad you made it. Greetings for Ruby. More greetings for Ruby. And there is another patron. Trey is joining us. Hey, everyone. Hello, Trey. That's why no sound. I was muted. I always make sure now, because of that one time when Foxy was on Creatives at Play when she couldn't hear anything, and the StreamYard randomly decided to stream the sound to my television, which wasn't on at the time. So now every time I get in here, I make sure that the sound is going through the computer speakers. The TV is still not on, and that would be kind of weird. Greetings for Trey. More greetings for Trey, because Trey's awesome. Midnight over on Twitch. Hey, Sword Peoples. Hello, Midnight. More greetings for Trey. Starting off with Co-Star today. He was being a pest, sitting there nosing my elbow when I was trying to get everything set up. Greetings for Puppers. Inigo was a very smart boy earlier, dried himself off and cleaned his feet before getting in bed because of the mud and water from the rain. Good boy. Yes, he was. Family ties are interested in Kung Fu, and they really are. And I kind of wish when I was younger, going through all this with my first Shifu, you know, I think I mentioned this when I did the tea time with Sifu Cuddle. My first Shifu, when I was younger, learning Mantis, I wish I would have pushed a little bit more. Not a lot more, a little bit more to figure out the lineage of where he came from. Because he just didn't talk about it. He didn't care. He never brought it up. And I wasn't smart enough to ask. So it was like, now people are like, oh, what's your Mantis lineage? And I have to literally go, I don't know. I learned from an old Chinese guy who moved down here to help with the railroads, and he just didn't talk about it, and I didn't think to ask. Now, is it entirely possible that the reason that he didn't talk about it is because there was some kind of split between him and his teacher, and he didn't want to be associated with that person anymore? Absolutely, that could 100% be a possibility. But I don't know because I never asked. Quite pleased with him, yes. Nearly had him 1 full year now. His Gotcha Day will be on the 26th. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Thesis chose well. Oh, well, you know. I've made a lot of good choices in my life that led me to here and now, and I'm very happy with where I am. So must say between them, it was very much a mutual choosing. Yes, it was. Saw a post today that said most of our pets' memories are of us, and I may have hugged our boys a little extra. Yeah. It's probably true. Aw. That's sweet. Oops. They're handy. No, you didn't break me. I broke myself just with like mental connections to words. It's really not. Defeating demons to a soundtrack of typo. Yeah. All right. Hey, look, I already have a kickbot. Let's go deal with that. I just barely reconnected this thing. You're already going to be throwing bots at me. And Dawn is Dawn is joining us, grabbing dinner, so I have sound turned down, but wanted to drop my like. Well, greetings and enjoy your dinner. And more greeting for Dawn. Nice. Okay, so Yuánjiǎ. If I had never seen the movie Fearless, it is entirely possible. Hi, Dawn. Have a nice dinner and more greetings for Dawn. It's entirely possible that I may have never heard of Yuánjiǎ, which would be a tragedy because this man, he had an amazing life. And from everything I've read, his martial philosophy is very similar to my own. So, short breakdown of the movie. If you can find a copy, there's a deleted scene, the very beginning of the movie, of Michelle Yeoh talking to the International Olympic Committee on why wushu should be included as a Olympic sport. And she's talking about the martial spirit and the history of martial arts. And then she goes in to tell the story about Yuánjiǎ, the Chinese folk hero. So you get introduced to our protagonist as a child. And Yuánjiǎ's father, Yuándi, did not want his son to learn martial arts because he has asthma. And Yuándi is afraid that it will cause further damage to his son to teach him martial arts. But children are children. And the child sneaks off and learns the martial art anyway. Now, okay, rewind a little bit. The very, very beginning of the movie shows you Yuánjiǎ fighting a spearman and a swordsman, and he defeats them both. And then it starts talking about the next fight, and that's when it goes into the flashback. So there you go. So the child learns martial arts against father's wishes. The father goes to a Lei Tai match. Lei Tai is a raised platform where martial contests were fought. And Yuánjiǎ and another little boy are arguing. Their fathers are fighting. And little boys are, my dad can beat up your dad. No, my dad can beat up your dad. My martial art is better. No, mine is. Blah, 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 you know. And Yuánjiǎ's father pulls a punch. He stops. And the other guy wins. And so his son gets the bragging rights. So, of course, Yuánjiǎ's like, well, let's settle this right now. I will fight you. And he loses. So he takes it upon himself to become the best martial artist in Tianjin, which is the village where he lives, so that he never has to lose again. And basically, the movie, I don't want to go through the entire thing because that would take way too long. But eventually he gets to the point where he is the top martial artist in Tianjin, but he kills someone. And later finds out that the reason that he wanted to kill that person was wrong. So he kind of loses his mind for a little bit and runs away, essentially. Basically leaves town. And he ends up somewhere else where his competitiveness is tested. To the point where he is basically shown the error of his ways and how not everything has to be a competition. And that helps him develop this martial philosophy. Oh, shut up, you. Thought I turned you off. And then he comes back to Tianjin and, you know, you get several more epic fights, but he's no longer fighting to win. And, you know, you get this explanation of, you know, martial arts is not about competition. It's about, well, it is about competition, but it's not about competition with the opponent. It's about competition with oneself. It's a very, very interesting movie. If you haven't seen it and you have the means to do so, please go watch this movie. It is an excellent, excellent movie. And Jet Li, when this movie came out, said that he wasn't going to make any more martial arts movies after this because this movie was his personal martial philosophy. And he has said everything he needs to say about the martial arts from this movie. Now, obviously, he's made more movies since then. But at the time, he was like, I don't need to say any more about the way I think about martial arts. Now, there are some falsities and anachronisms in this movie. They do kind of, they make it more climactic. You know, they claim that his entire family, which at the time then was a daughter, like maybe one or two maids for his daughter, and his mother. And according to the movie, they were all murdered. Now, obviously, this isn't true because he had children that succeeded him in life. So, obviously, he had more children that lived past this, you know, attack on his family. But Yuánjiǎ was born January 18th of 1868. He is a practitioner of Mizongyi, which is a northern Chinese fighting style. He is considered a folk hero for defeating foreign adversaries in publicized matches when people were looking at China, at the country as a weak country, weak people. You know, foreign countries were coming over to China, and the Chinese people were adopting all of these foreign methods of dress and languages and food, and their culture was being overrun. It was being overtaken by these foreign nations. And Yuánjiǎ looked at this and said, no, we need to continue our way of life and not just become what everyone else that comes here. How am I going to put this? We need to maintain our own culture. And he kind of wanted to show the beauty of Chinese martial arts throughout that, public martial arts contests. So he was born in a small village kind of outside of Tianjin as the fourth, again. Remember, Ip Man was the fourth child? Well, Yuánjiǎ was the fourth of 10 children. Yuánjiǎ had 9 siblings. Now, their main source of income was farming. It was agriculture. But Yuánjiǎ also had a merchant. He had an escort service. Shut up. Shut up. Yes, poor mother, I know. Escort services back then is not the same thing as escort services now. Escort services back then were basically paid bodyguards. You could hire someone to, let's say you have a loan that you need to pay back to the bank. You could hire an escort service to protect that money from your house to the bank. They're basically bodyguards. So Yuánjiǎ's father had an escort business protecting merchant caravans between villages in China. His father was part of a long line of martial artists, but as we said, he didn't want his son to learn because he had asthma, he had jaundice that would periodically pop back up throughout his life. He was very frail and very small. So father said, no, you're not learning the family fist. This is not going to happen. Unfortunately, as we well know, telling children not to do something is a really, really good way to get them to do it anyway. So his father hired a tutor from Japan to teach Yuánjiǎ academics and morality, because Yuánjiǎ was busy being a bodyguard, so he wasn't home to teach his son. So he hired a tutor. Now, the tutor, to pay him, Huandi taught the tutor the family fist. Now, can you see where this is going to go? This is going to go somewhere. Yuánjiǎ watched his father teaching the tutor, and at night secretly practiced with said tutor. So technically, he wasn't learning from his father, he was learning from one of his father's students. Did not technically break the rules. He didn't learn from his father, learn from someone else. Exactly. See the foreshadowing on the wall. Now, in 1890, so Yuánjiǎ would have been in his early 20s. A martial artist came and visited the family and fought with Yuánjiǎ's elder brother. And the elder brother lost. And the family was a bit taken aback by this, but what they didn't expect was the little frail, broken boy to pop up and fight the person that defeated his older brother and beat him. And because of this, he proved that he was able to practice, and his father took him on as a student. And as Yuánjiǎ grew older, he went to challenge other martial artists from neighboring villages. And the more he defeated people, the more he became famous. Yuánjiǎ ended up joining his father's caravan guard. And one day, they were escorting a group of monks. And a group of bandits threatened the monks. And Yuánjiǎ fought the bandit chief and defeated him. So news of that spread, and he became even more famous. But in around the mid-1860s, he kind of got tired of all the fame and moved into Tianjin and made a living there selling firewood to a pharmacy. So he had this amazing reputation as being a fighter and defeating all these people. And he decides, you know what? I'm going to go and sell firewood to a pharmacy instead. But that only lasted for about 5 years, because in 1902, a Russian wrestler was openly insulting the Chinese by calling them Dongyá Bing Fu. Dongyá Bing Fu means sick men of Asia. It was a pejorative from the late 19th and early 20th centuries because of the Chinese people's willingness and abundance to abandon their own culture and way of life so that they could appeal to foreigners. It is a concept that originated in Europe with the term sick man of Europe. Because Tsar Nicholas I called the Ottoman Empire sick men of Europe because the Ottoman Empire was falling. So by calling Chinese people and the country sick men of Asia, they're basically saying your country is falling. It's failing. You're all going to lose your country, your culture. And so you had this Russian wrestler coming over here and challenging Chinese martial artists, and no one wanted to fight him. Everyone was just like, no, we don't want to do this, whatever. So he started calling them sick men of Asia. And when Yuánjiǎ heard about this, he accepted the challenge. Now, the story is that when the Russian heard that his challenge was accepted by the famous Yuánjiǎ, he forfeited the match and apologized publicly in the same newspaper where he called them sick men of Asia. The fight never even took place. This wrestler heard Yuánjiǎ's name and went, oh shit, you know what? Never mind. We're not doing this. We're going to go, and you want me to apologize? Cool. I'm sorry. Nope. And that was all entirely due to just Yuánjiǎ's name. Nothing else, just his name. Well, obviously the fame attached to said name, but still, all he had to do was accept the challenge. A decade or so later, he accepted another challenge, traveling to Shanghai to fight an Irish boxer named Hercules O'Brien. Now, this fight is in the movie Fearless, but it's not a one-to-one, obviously. Hercules O'Brien in the movie is played by this big, huge, muscular dude. We don't know if the actual Hercules O'Brien was as big as the professional wrestler that played him in the movie. But the two of them argued over the rules because the boxer wanted boxing rules and Yuánjiǎ wanted Lei Tai rules. But eventually, they were able to agree that whoever knocked his opponent down would be the winner of the challenge. And according to the story, O'Brien lost. And this victory was an inspiration to the Chinese people, and that began them questioning their allowance of these foreign people to come and influence and dominate the Chinese culture. But there is, of course, controversy on whether this actually happened or not. Some people say that the fight took place and Yuánjiǎ won. Some people say the fight took place, Yuánjiǎ won and cheated. And some people say the fight never took place at all, and O'Brien just left town, just basically said, screw you guys, I'm going home, and they never even fought. What actually happened? Who knows? Oh, no, Dan. The Boxer Rebellion was earlier. The Boxer Rebellion was in the early 1900s. This happened a decade after the Boxer Rebellion ended. And the Boxer Rebellion was called that because the Society of Righteous and Harmonious Fists were called boxers because many of them practiced Chinese martial arts. They weren't actually boxers the way that like Western people think of boxers. They were Chinese martial artists. And they lost, which is its own freaking thing. Now, around the same time that Yuánjiǎ was fighting Hercules O'Brien, he also founded the Jīngwǔ Physical Training Center, also known as the Jīngwǔ School or the Jīngwǔ Athletic Association, along with his friend Nong Jin-sun, who served as president. He was encouraged by very close friends and sponsored by Sun Yat-sen, who is also a Chinese folk hero, and who was at the time living in Tokyo. And the Jīngwǔ School was meant to teach self-defense and improvement of mind and health. The Jīngwǔ School was not Yuánjiǎ teaching Mi Zhongyi to his students. It was an athletic association. Yuánjiǎ would bring in other teachers of other styles to teach the people at the Jīngwǔ School. Because Yuánjiǎ suffered from jaundice, he started seeing a Japanese physician for treatment. And this physician was a member of a judo association in Shanghai. So Yuánjiǎ invited this physician to come to the Jīngwǔ School and have a demonstration. And one of Yuánjiǎ's students fought with one of the physician's students. And there are disputes from both sides on who won. The thing that both sides agree on is the fight started as just a demonstration between judo and Chinese martial arts, it devolved into a giant brawl that had members of the judo team, including their head instructor, ended up with broken fingers, broken hands, injuries. And it just kind of cemented Yuánjiǎ's belief that martial artists don't need to be this violent. They don't need to be these people that go and challenge other schools. You can just discuss things. You can just have discussions. You can have philosophical debates. You don't need to break people to be able to talk about martial arts. Now, unfortunately, in 1910, which is the same year that had Yuánjiǎ founding the Jīngwǔ school and fighting Hercules O'Brien, he died at the age of 42. He was survived by his wife, 2 sons, and 3 daughters. So obviously, the movie Fearless, where he only had 1 child and she was murdered, not true. But he had 5 children and a wife. So 42 in the 1900s, the early 1900s, it's kind of early. And one of his students believed that he was poisoned by the Japanese physician. When the physician prescribed this medicine to him for his jaundice and his tuberculosis, he kept getting worse. And eventually he was admitted to the Shanghai Red Cross Hospital, where he died 2 weeks later. Now, no one actually knows that the medicine that was prescribed by this physician actually killed him. In 1989, Yuánjiǎ's grave was excavated and he was examined, and they found black spots in his pelvic bones. And the police laboratory confirmed that those black spots contained arsenic. But they could not say for sure if this arsenic was a malicious poisoning attack, or if this is because part of traditional Chinese medicine did use arsenic to treat certain conditions. So no one can actually say. They can say he had arsenic poisoning in his, in his body, but they can't say if the arsenic poisoning was malicious or if it was just because he was taking it as part of prescription medication. So his school, the Jīngwǔ school, was just barely getting off the ground when he died. He had enough time to along with Dong Jin-sun, write up the school's rules for the Jīngwǔ Athletic Association. Yes, absolutely, Carl. Like those crazy Victorians who used arsenic all the time. Yes. It was part of traditional Chinese medicine. It was only a few months after he founded the school that he died. But he invited several teachers from several different styles to come and teach at the school, including a different Mizongyi teacher, an Eagle Claw master, 7-star Praying Mantis master, Xingyi Chuan master, and the founder of Wu-style Tai Chi. He invited all of these people to come to the Jīngwǔ school and teach. So that is obviously a perfect example of the Jīngwǔ school was not about teaching Yuánjiǎ's family style. It was about teaching Chinese martial arts as a whole so that these styles did not die. He wanted the culture of Chinese martial arts to flourish. That is why he started the Jīngwǔ school. It was meant as a group of martial artists to come together and continue the Chinese martial culture, the history of Chinese martial arts. In June of 1910, a Chinese newspaper announced the establishment of the Jīngwǔ school in Yuánjiǎ's name. And it was the very first civil martial arts organization in China that was not associated with a school or a style. It was the very first one. And that is why it is important. That is why the Jīngwǔ school still to this day exists in China. I was watching a couple weeks ago. It's getting kind of dark, so. Oh, Lord. There we go. That's better. So watching a couple of weeks ago, one of my favorite martial arts channels on YouTube, Monkey Steals Peach. It's about Monkey Steals Peach is the name of a movement in Praying Mantis Kung Fu. So he does a lot of Mantis content, but he also, oh, my nose. He also does talking to masters of other styles. And him and Alexander Petty from the Ravenswood Academy went to China to go and discuss the history of Praying Mantis Kung Fu. And they went to the Jīngwǔ school and they talked to Mantis masters that still, to this day, are teaching at the Jīngwǔ school. Still, in 2025, 115 years later, after this place was founded, it's still there. And they're still teaching. Yuánjiǎ invited a 7-star Mantis teacher 115 years ago, and today, 2025, they're still teaching there. Obviously not the same person, the style is still being taught there. It was in medicines, makeup, and some Victorians even used it as a recreational drug. Yes, they did. That is why the Jīngwǔ school and Yuánjiǎ are famous and important. Because the Jīngwǔ Athletic Association was never about Yuánjiǎ. It was never about Huowendi. It was never about Mizongyi. It was about bringing people together to continue the legacy of Chinese martial arts. If Yuánjiǎ, now this is conjecture. This is just me talking out of my ass, basically. But if Yuánjiǎ never would have stood up to the Russian boxer calling China and Chinese people sick men of Asia, Chinese martial arts would be gone. This is my opinion. This is not a fact. This is my opinion. But if Yuánjiǎ never would have stood up, never would have accepted that challenge, the culture around Chinese martial arts in China and in the West would not be here today. Because nobody, until Yuánjiǎ, was willing to stand up to this person and willing to say, no, we will continue our culture. We will continue our way of life and continue our fighting spirit. It would not be here today. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for Yuánjiǎ. That is my belief. That is my opinion. But you cannot say that Yuánjiǎ did not hold on to what other Chinese martial artists at the time were more than willing to let go of. Now, just like we did with Ip Man, we're going to do a short overview of all of the different adaptations of Yuánjiǎ's life. He is always depicted as a heroic martial artist who fights to uphold the Chinese people and the Chinese way of life in the face of foreign aggression. I'm not going to say but one of the most famous depictions is in the Bruce Lee movie Fist of Fury, released in the US as Chinese Connection, where Bruce Lee plays Chen Jin, a student of Yuánjiǎ who returns to China to discover the cause of his teacher's death, and then when it is revealed that his teacher was poisoned, he goes and gets justice. He also basically ends himself at the end of the movie, but it still talks about the Jīngwǔ school and Yuánjiǎ's students. But there have been many, many movies in the 1980s, the 1990s, and the 2000s that had depictions of Yuánjiǎ, including Jet Li playing Yuánjiǎ in the movie Fearless, which in Asia, it's not called Fearless. It's called 火影家. Now, I heard, can't say this for sure, because I've never seen the show. But there are people arguing outside. I might have to close my window. The TV drama Heroes is supposed to have a person, Vincent Zhao, portraying Yuánjiǎ. I've never seen Heroes, so I can't say for sure, but that's what I've heard. Yes, absolutely. Sounds like the original Rising Tide Indie CD. Absolutely, yes. That's a very good analogy. I like that. But that is the life of Yuánjiǎ, how he became as famous as he was, and why, and how and why he created the Jīngwǔ school. Oh, nice. Saw Heroes. I think the time traveler guy went back and saw him, but that was long ago. Okay. I wonder if I can... find a YouTube video of Vincent Zhao playing Yuánjiǎ in Heroes. Now, I was going to do something, but I don't know if it would get me in trouble. But I suppose nothing happened when I played the Ip Man video last week, so maybe... maybe I won't get dinged for it. There literally are videos of Heroes 2020. I might have to watch that, but oh, come on. I know they have it. There we go. This one might be good. I want to show, I think for the very first time on this channel, I have alluded to this scene. And I think I put links to this scene in the chat, but I want to actually show you the scene from Fearless, where Yuánjiǎ is discussing tea with the Japanese master. So let us bring this up. Now you're going to have to let me know if you can actually hear this.
胡先生这么说，难道当真不懂茶？
不是我不懂，是我不愿懂。我不想将茶分出高低，是茶就好。
可是这茶却有高低和不同品性之分。
什么是高，什么是低。它们本身呢，都是生长于自然当中，并没有高低之分。
看来阁下真不懂，否则的话，自然会品出高低的。
先生说的也对。所以在我看来，茶品的上下高低，并不是由茶来对我们说，倒是由人来决定的。不同的人有不同的选择，我不愿做这个选择。
哦，为什么？
喝茶是一种心情，如果你的心情重了，茶的高低还有这么重要？
哦，安也不曾想过。依先生看来，世上的武术派别如此繁多。
See, now he realized they were talking about martial arts and not
也
tea.
没有什么高上下之分。
我想是这样的。
那么，先生，安也想请教：既然武术没有高低之分，为何还有比武竞技呢？
我以为世上的武术确实没有高低之分，只有习武的人才有强弱之别。通过竞技，我们可以发现和认识一个真正的自己，因为我们真正的对手，可能就是我们自己。
只有通过竞技，才能认识真正的自己。
There you go.
莫非先生的意思，最可怕的竞技在自己内心？先生的一席话，使得安也非常的敬佩。今天我们是以茶会友，别光顾说话，却忘了喝茶了。来，品茶，
品茶。
And that entire conversation. Good. Glad you could hear it. That entire conversation ends up changing the course of the fight that the two of them have at the end of the movie. Because Yuánjiǎ, just like his father, pulled a punch that could have killed the Japanese fighter. And we know this because he used that same punch earlier in the movie when he killed someone else. He pulled that punch, and the Japanese fighter... Let me set the stage a little bit here. Yuánjiǎ is challenged by, what did they call it? It was like the Foreign Something Association. He was challenged to have several matches with foreign fighters so that the foreigners could say, oh, look at these weak Chinese people. They wanted him to lose. They set it up for him to lose. And he beat the spearman. He beat the swordsman. And the swordsman was played by Anthony DeLongis, who, if you know anything about Hollywood combat, Anthony DeLongis is an extremely experienced swordsman. So having him be in this movie is quite a pull. But he defeats the spearman. He defeats the swordsman. Then he has 3 rounds with the Japanese fighter. And the first 2 rounds basically end in a draw. And then you get to the 3rd round, and Yuánjiǎ, in the movie, obviously, gets poisoned between the 2nd and 3rd round with tea. And his asthma that he has not had an issue with throughout most of the movie comes back, and he starts coughing up blood. Black blood. And the Japanese fighter is like, whoa, let's stop. Let's end this right now. And let's get you to a hospital. And he's like, it's already too late. I'm basically dead anyway. So let's just finish the fight. And he pulls the punch. And so his Japanese handler, basically runs down there and declares the Japanese fighter the winner. Because Yuánjiǎ basically falls down dead. And the Japanese fighter pulls his hand away. And he picks Yuánjiǎ up, and he holds his arm up high, declaring Yuánjiǎ the winner. And he starts the people chanting Yuánjiǎ's name. And in the movie, not in real life, in the movie, that's the last thing that Yuánjiǎ hears, is all of these people chanting his name. And the Japanese fighter's handler is, what are you doing? You threw this fight. You know you won. And he just grabs this guy by the lapel, basically, and says, no, I lost this fight. Now, if Yuánjiǎ and this Japanese fighter had not had that discussion over tea the day before, I highly doubt that the Japanese fighter would have declared Yuánjiǎ the winner of that fight. That discussion about tea and martial arts changed that person's philosophy. It changed his way of thinking, that it was no longer me versus Yuánjiǎ, that was me versus myself. It's a very philosophical movie. It really is. You know, you start out with this, kid that's, what's the word? Geez, can't think of the word. He's a child. He will go out and do whatever he wants to do, whenever he wants to do it. And then he has to come to grips with, I killed someone. And he gets his entire headstrong works. Not exactly what I was going for, but that works. He killed someone, and he has to come to grips with, holy crap, this is not cool. This is wrong. Why was I so obsessed with being the best? Why was I so obsessed with being the top fighter? Why did I have to go to all these lengths? And it cost someone their life. Now, again, the movie is not historically accurate, but it does hit several beats of the real Yuánjiǎ's life, and it does show you the philosophy that he created when he founded the Jīngwǔ school. There you go. Yuánjiǎ and the Jīngwǔ school. Now we're 20 minutes over the hour. And as always, I do have to go eat. Yeah, heavy life topics. You're not kidding. Another good show. Thank you, Carl. I'm glad that people actually enjoy hearing about these things and hearing about these people and concepts, and fascinating. Yeah. Like I said, I will be back, obviously, on Monday for some more Nine Dragons. I will be back probably on Wednesday on Creatives of Play over on the Indie CD channels. Or if you're watching this from Kick, I'll be right here. And I'll be back next Saturday to talk about the god of war himself, Guan Yu, the patron saint of martial arts. So I hope people will look forward to that one. And I will see you, if not Monday. And my lovely co-host. If I don't see you on Monday, I will see you on Wednesday. If I don't see you on Wednesday, I will see you right back here next Saturday for another edition of the Teahouse series on Chinese folk heroes. We have a good night from Midnight. We have a night from Kitty. We have a great show and a thank you from Dan. You're very welcome. We have a good night, everyone, from Carl. And we have a nice evening all from Foxy. I will see you next time. Thank you all for coming. One quick shout out to my patrons: Dan Hollifield, Carl Witzman, Rich Asplin Jr., and Joe and Trelena Bachman. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate everything that you do for me in this channel. And I will see you all next time. 再见。